Oh, okay, that's
I think
good.
some members
I
never
was
even
like,
use them,
ah.
like you do all hard copy and
Yeah,
Elena
I
used
just
to.
log in.
Okay, I was all panicked going,
Yeah,
I just log in and print it. I'll say it.
Hi, Shiloh.
Hi, Devin. Hi, everybody.
Or copying your stuff.
I think we should just start.
It's 4:30, not 4:29.
Shallow, you haven't heard from Mark. I guess we can leave it.
No, I'll post it.
She should be there, but she tends to come a bit later, so.
We'll get started then. I'll just read the acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa, the Syilx, and the Sinixt people, as home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And on to the consent agenda. Was there anything that anyone wants to pull out from last meeting to discuss further? Can I get a motion that the Nelson Police Board accepts the consent agenda as presented? Second by Devin, and all in favor? Motion passed.
we were gonna do the negation instead of all.
No, I think all in favor. is
And then
fine.
I thought, because Thanksgiving's
fun.
coming up, we need some exercise. I had a long drive today.
Oktoberfest.
I had a long drive today. I was like, oh, let's just try that.
Easy. Arm day.
Little.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
I guess number 3 business arriving is the EDI.
Yeah, let me take a look here and see if there's anything kind of beyond that needs to be. I mean, I guess, does anybody have any questions from the minutes? The only thing here is that we did talk to finance about an actual budget, so kind of those of you who went to see Lisa Gunderson in the spring, Dr. Lisa Gunderson was here. She was really amazing presentation. One of the things she said was, if you don't put a budget behind something, it's not actually a priority. And so with that in mind, to talk about the EDI committee, in our finance committee meeting last week, when we went over the first draft of the budget, we did ask for a budget line for the EDI committee. And, we asked for 2,500 and Chris put in 2,000 for the EDI committee. And there's not entirely like grand plans to spend $2,000 every year, but it's so that there is a line item in that budget that if we want to do things, we have the capacity, whether that's like bringing in speakers for education or bring in speakers or other things. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like yet. So, but that's kind of the only difference I can see from what's here. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have a question because
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with understanding the EDI committee. Is the EDI committee actually a committee of the police board, or is the EDI committee a committee of the community?
I think that's a really great question that I don't personally have the answer to. I think that's an answer that we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I have no
Discuss
problem,
and-
I fully
yeah.
support that. I mean, I was at
Yeah.
Lisa Gunderson's
Yeah.
presentation, and she was excellent, and I think you were there. I think Karen, were you not? Oh, I thought you were.
Jason, we're there, right?
Yeah, Jason was there. I mean, and bringing in a speaker like that, I mean, that probably wouldn't even come close to covering it, but she's
Yeah.
very generous with the time and stuff.
Mhm.
And I understand that, but I'm still struggling with the answer to the first question. Like, so $2,000 is fine, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to,
I think that's a really
because
great.
Lena told me this is a community driven thing that we have policing involved with, but now it's a budget line in the police budget. Now it's telling me that it's a committee of the police board, which is a different dynamic.
Well, I think maybe that is that is a question that we actually need to answer at this table, because it's it's not entirely clear to me. I've only been on the committee for a year now. And yeah, so that's not entirely clear to me either. It is made up of, you know, I would say at this point, it's leadership from different community organizations,
Yeah.
Nelson Cares, Anchors, the Teachers Association. There's different kind of like leadership from those organizations that come together quarterly. Dr. Masaji comes. Yes.
No,
Oh, okay.
you finish.
Yeah, and so we come together and we like kind of check in and you know, Barb has been working on a cultural guidebook for the officers. That's kind of been, I think, mostly finalized and put out to the officers. You know, we've also talked about like it's a bit, there's some nebulousness there as to whether it's something that we own or it's something that is owned by the committee itself.
Right.
I think that's a really great question. And if it's something that we own as a board, what is it that we're looking for from the EDI committee? And if it's not something that we own, what's like,
Yeah, I just think if we want it, we should have terms of reference and all those other things.
Yeah.
In terms of the governance model, go
Right.
with it, and it feels a little bit loose.
it does feel a little bit loose, and I've been like at the meetings, but Lena has been kind of our official board liaison, and now it's well, I mean, I'm assuming like I'd like to stay on that committee.
Yeah.
But we're discussing that today. So it's a really great question.
Yeah.
It's so there is terms of reference, and maybe what we could do is, because we don't have a meeting again now till December, so maybe for the next meeting we could have the terms of reference, and that's a thing that we can discuss as a, like we can look at the terms of reference and discuss what exactly it is that the board would like to see from the EDI committee, and whether it's something that we own or if it is in fact a community-driven group. Because currently it's being chaired by Lena and Barb. And yeah. That's a great question. That's a really great question. And yeah, I think that
Yeah,
there's, yes.
Sorry.
I can answer that, so.
Yeah.
Go-
Okay,
you
well,
go ahead first.
Okay, well, I think it's an excellent question, Janice, so thank you for raising it. I struggle with a committee that has not been established by this board and with board terms of reference, that it is a board committee, unless there's something that the chief is going to clarify. Because like to me, there's a very distinct difference between the police board or operational people being part of a community committee. That's really good. And we need to also understand our role vis-a-vis that, versus we have constituted and created terms of reference, because otherwise the board is potentially put in situations where, you know, we don't have a mandate around this. So I think we do need to be clear, and from a budgeting perspective, it makes a huge difference whether it's our budget, like a city, Nelson Police budget, or some budget elsewhere from the community. It doesn't mean the committee can't ask for contributions from time to time or create some pro rata system for contributions among the members, but yeah, I think we should clarify that from a board and risk management perspective in terms of our role vis-a-vis the committee. But Chief, you probably can explain it all, so
Well,
go
I
ahead.
don't know if I can explain it all, because this is, I guess, my perception or my opinion of what the committee was. And I do see it as a community committee, and I don't think it should be part of the police board. I mean, that's the idea, is that it should be arm's length. The police board or myself should not be influencing or directing the committee as to what to do or what the terms of reference are. Like, that was the point. They direct themselves, they come up with their terms of reference, they decide what's important. I think the idea behind the budget line, though, is that they're an advisory committee. So if they're advising things they think the police should be doing and initiatives we should be part of, and that's what they're being requested to do, I don't think they should have to pay for the activity that the police then are doing based on their recommendations. So I think, I wouldn't say that the budget is the committee's budget. The committee is separate. The budget is for the police to do things that the committee is advising the department that they think we should be doing to bridge those gaps with the community. So I kind of think they're not quite tied together. Like the committee can't access the funds and spend it where they see fit. That's not the idea behind it. It's them to advise us of stuff to do, and then it's still up to us whether we do them or not, but we needed funds to actually do those things.
And I don't have any problem with the money. It's just the fact that I keep asking this
Yeah.
repeated question and I keep getting this circular answer.
I am, I think that it's.
We'll see where it goes.
So yeah, it's a bit of a complicated, I think kind of when we were talking about a budget, it was like, so the Market Fest table, for example, was, a banner, brochures, I don't know if there was a cost to the table, the wristband things. So that had a cost. And at this point, Charlotte just kind of finds the money because she's magic like that. So instead of Shiloh just kind of finding the money, there's actually a budget for that. Was kind of like, so we're doing that kind of thing. But this question I think is a really great question in that, like, what exactly is the EDI committee for? And like, who's it for?
So because I am a stickler for clarity, my question is this: what is the action item and how will we resolve this question? So one of the important things for me is managing expectation of the people who are part of this committee. If it is an advisory committee, then everyone on that committee should understand that that's what it is. Because otherwise, I think we are creating a situation that could, have varying expectations and misalignments, and I don't think that's helpful to anyone. So my question is, I don't know who is going to take this back. I assume you, Devin, will take it back to the committee, but I think we need to understand if you're going back and saying the board wants to clarify that in our view, this is an advisory committee. There's no specific budget vis-a-vis the police department. And I don't know who wrote the terms of reference, but like the terms of reference should be very clear. This is advisory only. The budget comes from the members somehow, and recommendations can be made to the police department and board, but there's no obligation necessarily. Usually we would go with recommendation, but it doesn't automatically mean that things will, sort of be accepted. That has to go through a process, whether it's board or operational. So anyways, that was a bit long-winded, but yeah, does that make sense, Devin? I'm not sure what your next step would be.
I totally hear what you're saying. And I think, like, I have obviously, this is not the first time it's come up, and I have been struggling with the clarity around what the EDI committee is myself. And so I think that's really great. I wonder if, I do wonder, like, our next meeting is in December.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder if maybe at next month's meeting, we want to take a look at the terms of, like, that if we want to take a look at the terms of reference as a group and discuss it then once everyone has had an opportunity to look at the terms of reference, because I have discussed my struggles with the EDI committee before. And it would be great if we were actually all reading from the same document, and then we can actually have a really informed discussion about what that committee brings to the table. So, and who, like, where it falls. I think that would be ideal, because I can't answer those questions. The committee's like 4 years old now. I've been on it for a year, and I have been struggling with that the entire time I've been on it. So these questions, what exactly it's for, why are we meeting, what kind of outcomes are we looking for? Because that hasn't been clear to me in the 4 or 5 meetings I've been to.
So I guess we can just ask Charlotte then to
Yeah. Can we,
circulate the
thanks, Charlotte.
things.
Thank you.
Sorry to segue on that.
No, thank you.
If we're all good on that, I might push the board committees for now, unless Martin, in case Martin comes. Because then she can decide which one. So let's probably skip to you.
Okay. No, let me jump down. Be quick. I don't have a ton on the open meeting stuff, just a few updates from BC Association of Municipal Chiefs. We actually had a meeting, a 4-hour meeting yesterday, so I have a few things. And I'll just give you the point form version of stuff, but we discussed the assault style rifle buyback program. So this is all public, obviously, but the BC Association of Chiefs sent out a letter after a lot of inquiries from the National Post and a number of other media outlets, just because of some of the stances across the country, Alberta in particular, standing against the buyback and not participating. The BC chief support the program and want to participate in the program. The discussion more around is how do you facilitate it without overloading and burdening, detachments and smaller police departments and even bigger police departments all across the country to manage this. So they provided some suggestions to the federal program as to how they think would be better implemented, and having dedicated teams and potentially dedicated mobile teams that would arrange to be in communities at different times and collect the firearms, facilitate the storage or destruction, whatever they're doing, and the actual refunding or buying back of the firearms to the individuals who are turning those in. So that's kind of where that stands. My sense is it's still going to be a bit of a drawn out process to get all of that stuff clarified, and it's going to be a huge undertaking for most communities like ours and all through the country, collecting these firearms and trying to properly account for them, catalog them, ensure what's going to happen with them after they're collected, and again making sure that people are properly reimbursed for the firearms when they bring them in.
Chief, could you just say, how many of these firearms are we collecting in Nelson these days?
None.
Thank you.
I shouldn't say none. None that I'm aware of, but I don't recall anybody bringing any in saying they want to. Because part of the problem too, there's some risk with somebody bringing them in before, even though the amnesty's on. The amnesty requires people to keep it basically locked up in their house, and they're not allowed to take it out. So one of the requirements of bringing it in is you have to call ahead of time, make arrangements, and get permission to bring it here. So if you walked in the front counter with it, you
Probably get arrested.
Well,
God.
I had a few choices here what might happen. Sorry.
let's just say the outcome could be bad. Leave it at that.
And I guess that would be the next question I would have, is that are people aware of that? I guess if I'm cleaning out grandma's house and I find out she's got an AK-47 in the basement that I didn't know about, like I would just think, I've got to get rid of this. I would throw it in the back of my car and I would drive it to a police station. Like are people aware that they should phone ahead?
No, I think that's more
DoorDash.
rare that happens. More times people are calling, and that happens quite often when we get calls to relinquish firearms, like people going through deceased people's houses.
Yeah.
They generally call us and we go and pick them up.
Oh, okay.
Because even the average person needs a possession certificate to have a firearm. So, I wouldn't say that scenario couldn't happen or wouldn't happen. I mean, it comes down to the mens rea and the intent of the person that we wouldn't be arresting and charging them for that. So it's like if somebody found a handgun in the garage, we would charge them for possessing a restricted weapon when they walked in the front door. You got to use the discretion and common sense in those cases, but it would be rare if it happens. And I think generally people are aware of the program. People who aren't firearms, holders or enthusiasts or whatever you want to call them, may not know all the minutia of the new laws. And I would say there's probably lawyers that don't know the minutia of all the laws, but I think generally there's an awareness that this is happening, and I think people would be more apt to err on the side of caution and phone us before they did anything to the inspector.
Thank you.
Covered BCA MCP memberships, which is kind of irrelevant here, I guess. Public security and the Solicitor General's letter about about the JIBC was reviewed, and this was presented by Matt Brown, who's one of the executives with PSSG, where it has some effect on Nelson. It's minimal effect on Nelson Police, but policing overall in the province. It's been a good development where the province has increased funding to the JIBC. Now, it doesn't affect individual departments, and in particular, it wouldn't affect us in any way other related to costing for us to send a recruit, because the government funds their portion of the training, the department funds a portion of the recruits training, and the recruit themselves fund another portion of their training. So that's not changing. That system still lays out. Where it's having an effect is they've increased the funding. So what they've done is the 3 classes they run a year, they've increased them from 64 recruits to 99 recruits, which works out to 105 additional recruits being trained at the JIBC a year, which is still unfortunately well under where we need to be at with Surrey coming online and a few other things. But again, it's an increase and it's a move in the right direction. So that other 105 officers, and the majority of those are probably going to go to Surrey and Vancouver, and then closely followed by Victoria. Will still, we haven't run into an issue with capacity on our end. We get the seats that we ask for, so that's been a great thing for us. But it is good to see the other departments getting, some capacity increase of JIBC. We also got an update on the Health IM, and I know there's been the last 2 police board meetings, just updates on Health IM and how it's been working in the community. So again, it still continues to be a positive thing. So they're moving forward with the rollout in a couple of other communities in the province. So we'll see that expanding, and I think again, there's no direct effect to us with it. I think Prince Rupert was one of the places they were adding it to, but I think as the program gets going and it becomes more familiar, especially on the healthcare side of things, that just increases the awareness and the efficiency and the buy-in by healthcare, which really is crucial in us, it being successful on our end and getting people in the examination and decisions making when they get to the hospital and freeing up the officers faster. So program continues to work, and I think as it continues to roll out, it'll just keep getting more successful. Expunged disciplinary records. This kind of falls under conduct and OPCC type matters, but it's not a in-camera type discussion. Basically, what's happening is the Crown, both provincial and federal Crown, have been looking at whether or not it's appropriate to not disclose police records misconduct because they've been a certain length of time or expired or been expunged in their records. So this is being reviewed at the higher court levels. Right now, departments are being asked to at least acknowledge to the Crown if there is expunged records, and then can have a discussion on a case-by-case basis of whether or not the Crown feels that it's important that those records still be provided, even though they've been expunged off the officer's record. I have a little bit of issue with that, because to me, it's sort of like once we go down that road, it's kind of hard to go back, but that's the direction that's been taken by most departments. And I somewhat suspect that the Supreme Court's review and ruling on this is that we're going to have to start supplying expunged records, which then, in my mind, calls into the, what's the value in expunging records? Like they might as well change the BC Act, BC Police Act, and the rules around expunging records, and just leave them on your record permanently. Then, if that's, we're going to have to disclose them anyways, because we're going to have to keep the records.
Disclose to who? Sorry.
So whenever there's charges laid and it goes to trial, it was a Supreme Court of Canada case related to McNeil. McNeil was the accused in that case, and basically they asked for records of the police officers to say, whether it was deceit or something that the police officer had misconduct on, that they made a successful argument that was relevant in the case, and defense should know about the police officer testifying against their clients' previous discipline records.
Because it had showed previous bias or a pattern or whatever. Okay.
So the Crown gets the McNeil records. They're all confidential, the Crown gets the records and they review them first, and then they determine whether they feel there's potentially some relevance to the case before they're disclosed to the defense. But ultimately, there is a process in place where those records need to be made available to the Crown to decide whether they're then made available to the defense.
Okay.
So, but in the past, depending on the severity of the finding of misconduct, it stayed on your record for a, sort of a set time period, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or I think, is there any permanent ones in BC?
No.
So anyways, that's the argument, is that they shouldn't be expunged ever, and the Crown should have the opportunity to see them to determine if they're relevant, the severity of them.
Thank you.
Last thing on the BC AMCPs and CPs. The BC Coroner's Intimate Partner Violence Death Panel. This was an event, we call it that occurred. A member from the BC AMCP, a senior deputy chief, attended, so he did a bit of a report on what was discussed there. Unfortunately, this one was he was kind of moving around online. I missed a lot of what he said, so I'm kind of waiting for the minutes from the meeting to come out, because I think it sounded very interesting. One of the things that he did note was that the finding was that 13% of homicides in the province, there was some type of interpersonal violence link to them. So, it's certainly a significant amount. So once I get, if there's a report that comes with it, and I'm somewhat guessing at some point these findings or panel work might be online as well, but I'll make an effort to get the rest of the information and kind of report on the significant points at a meeting in a month or two. I'm not quite sure when those necessarily will be available. They usually send the minutes out before the next BC MCP meeting, so probably when that happens. If you want to go get Emily, then I'll do the VSU and RG update. So I believe, as most of you know, the new VSU coordinator and RJ manager, Melanie Briscoe, started in late August, so she's well into her second month now. She's been actively involved in Nelson and RCMP VSU files. I believe most of you know, but she came to us from the RCMP detachment, so she was somewhat familiar with the the VSU program and that, so she kind of stepped into it with some experience already. But again, Barb is teaching her and training her and stuff and answering questions. The plan is to have her attend an upcoming meeting, as Emily is doing for us today, and kind of provide a review of where things are at, how the training's been going, and just kind of give an update on some of the stats and things like that. So Jason and I talked today that we would probably sit down with her in the next couple of weeks and just have a review and assessment to this point with her ourselves, and then invite her to one of the meetings to do a bit of an intro and just kind of an update as to where things are at in both programs. So and on that note, I want to introduce you to our community safety officer, Emily, and I'm sorry I have to ask everybody how she pronounces her last name every time. But
Tiberio.
I really like your name. I just have trouble remembering how to pronounce it. So anyways, that's her introduction, and Emily kindly agreed to come and just give a little bit of background and an update on some of the things she's working on and how things are going. So, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm the community safety officer. I've been in this role for about the past 3 months now. And since then, I've learned many great ways on how to assist the officers, as well as in community engagement. Some tasks I've been taking on is retrieving and reviewing CCTV footage for the members, as well as handling the lost and found property that comes into the department. So writing reports for property, as well as storing and returning to owners. Another job is civilian fingerprint appointments. So when people need fingerprints taken for employment and visa purposes. These have, been really great opportunities to have more insight on law enforcement and what the members' day-to-day life looks like. Another big part of the CSO position is engaging with the community, and I've been doing that by attending events and markets that happen in town, which has been great to do over the summer. There's been lots, so it's been a lot of fun, as well as foot patrol in high traffic areas like Baker Street and Lakeside Park. This gives the community an opportunity to come up and ask any questions, share any concerns they have, or just have conversation. So that's, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Currently, the project I'm working on is the Youth Police Academy. The community safety officer in this position did this last year and it was really great. So I'm excited to be doing it again this year. It'll be for local youth aged 11 to 14 years old. And yeah, it'll be throughout November. Every Saturday they'll come in and we'll teach classes on things like conflict, de-escalation, use of force, and we'll have the members come in and teach these courses as well for the youth. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in this role, so it's been great to learn all the different things, and the members and everyone has been super helpful and supportive.
Did you mention your work you've been doing on the media releases?
Yeah, it's also writing the weekly media releases to help kind of give the community insight on what's going on and giving safety tips and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's been an excellent, excellent program we've kind of initiated here, and Emily's doing a great job too at capturing kind of a weekly summary and some updates on some of the interesting files and that. And again, as we talked about before, I think sometimes the department getting its message out and what's happening and actually the work we're doing has been a bit of a shortcoming on the department in the past. So it's been a great help to have somebody that's regularly doing that. And I think the public really appreciates it as well.
It's been like a regular thing in the paper, right? And then Nelson.
Oh my God, it was like don't even go back to those dark days. I mean, it was like the person's name and what they were arrested for.
I was a homeowner. I was an unnamed homeowner in one of them 10 years ago.
Still magneted onto your fridge.
No, not that one, unfortunately.
If anybody has any questions, and I see.
I just have a quick question. In terms of some of the feedback that you get when you're sort of walking around Baker Lakeside, like, is there any themes to what you hear?
There is definitely a concern over the e-bikes in town. So I don't know if you saw the media release on e-bikes and kind of safety and rules. I've done 2 media releases on that as well because I have had feedback on concerns for speed and just how many e-bikes we have currently in town going on.
Thank you.
Emily also went up with one of the officers up to the school to speak to staff at the middle school.
Yeah, with e-bikes.
Yeah,
The place that isn't supposed to have e-bikes, it's always good to go there and talk to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I go by my house at such high rate of speed.
You know what? I was coming up here and some lady just was like, stop sign, that's just a suggestion, right? Pulled right out in front of me as I was coming here today. So we can talk about kids, but there's just as many idiot grown-ups out there.
And you're not really allowed to ride your bike through the crosswalk, but people
Yeah.
seem to think that if they're
Oh, yeah.
riding their bike in the crosswalk, they have the right of way,
Right?
even though they went through the stop sign.
Yeah, it was, I was just like, whoa, that was close.
Do you feel like more helmets? I've seen
Oh.
more kids with helmets recently, so it's
That's
like,
good.
Maybe it's because it's getting cold. Honestly.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
E-bikes, okay. So just to follow up on that, in terms of, do you ever get stopped to talk about the encampments?
No, I don't, not the encampments.
Okay.
And
And did you go there at all? Does CSO check on any encampments?
No,
That's
no,
that's all just police and
Yep.
Yeah,
bylaw.
just because there's a higher level of risk and it's not,
Right.
that's not her role or job.
Right.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
awesome, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you all.
Nice to meet
Thanks.
Concludes my report for the open meeting.
Thank you. And I just have one thing on the operations side. I just want to celebrate a success from the patrol level. On September 15th, we had a report of a break and enter. Members successfully apprehended a male individual known for repeated property-related offenses. And he was arrested and charged with 3 counts of theft, 2 counts of break and enter, and 1 count of failing to comply with an undertaking. Following his arrest, he was remanded in custody and will be appearing October 16th. And the arrest represents a significant step in addressing ongoing property crime concerns here in town. He's definitely a prolific offender, so.
So is he still in
He
custody?
is, yeah.
Wow.
For property-related crime, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
And when they're in custody, they're not here, sorry, they're not here, are they?
All of them.
All of them,
Yeah.
There's been a decrease in calls that you can.
Definitely towards property crime, I would say. This individual was known to go in spurts of property crime, so he'd go in high wave of property crime. So I think we stopped probably another few days, probably property crime, by catching him.
Yeah, and we've had that in the past with not the same individual, but another prolific offender who, when they were out of the community, it was probably a 70% drop in property crime offenses. So, again, if we can keep being successful in getting, a few individuals remanded in custody, it makes a huge dent in the, future offenses. It's almost a crime prevention program on its own.
And the members did a great job on the bail recommendations, so that Crown had the support to seek his detention. That's great.
Good. All right, can I get a mover that Nelson Police Board receive and accepts the Chief Constable report as presented? And seconded, David, and all in favor? Yes, and Chief told me that it doesn't look like Mara's going to make it today, so it's going to jump back to the Police Board committees. So I believe we might be shuffling some members around and getting some people to kind of join some committees.
Mhm.
So I have for the Finance Committee, I think we only need 2. It says here there's room for a 3rd. Or is it just that we just ran 3 in the past?
She doesn't.
We're all looking at
We're all
Shiloh.
looking at
We're all
Shiloh.
looking at-
I thought you were looking, I wasn't 100% sure. Yeah, we've just had 3 in the past, but you could just run the committee with just 2.
Okay.
Charlotte, did you mention to me that, and I know she's not here, but did Sue, I thought like Sue expressed some interest. She'd been on in the past.
She did. She asked to be put back on that one if there was space for it.
If we push this to December's meeting, because we're missing 2 of the 3 people who want to join them, who maybe
Do you mean the November meeting?
November meeting, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll put it on November.
Because, I mean, the Finance Committee is meeting next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're okay there. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind putting this over to the next meeting. Although where's the governance committee on here? Oh, there it is.
Right there.
Um,
I would like to.
yeah, well, so I feel like this is a huge gap we currently have, is the governance committee. I'm willing to put my name forward for that. And it's fine if we want to wait to do everything for a month or so, but at the same time, I assume most of you were at the standards and compliance presentation. There's certainly things I think that need some attention. And so, yeah, I guess my question is, do you want to deal with some of the committees and populate based on who's here and then just have another add-on for the next time? Or do you want to just put the whole thing over?
I mean, I think we can address.
I mean,
some
it's
things
what,
now.
most of these things need 2. So I mean, if somebody,
Mhm.
we've got one that wants to be on it, let's
Yeah,
put that name in, and then it's not like 2 blank spots and then nobody's there. I'm,
no, I agree.
I'm-
Why don't we just, if there's
I
some
think that's great, Christine, if you wanna.
Yeah,
better changes, yeah.
so I definitely would like to take my name off the governance one. If 2 people want to do commendations and awards, I quite enjoyed it and I'm happy to stay on, but if somebody else wants to take that on, it was like pretty nice to come in here and like listen to all the good things. It was like really, you know what I mean? Like it's a nice thing. I want to stay on the finance committee and EDI, but I'm kind of, and I am not the BCAPP representative. I'm pretty sure that's Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was at the meeting last week.
Yeah. Oh, good. So. But yeah, I'm happy to say accommodations and awards, but if two other people want to do it, it's like a really nice. It's a nice thing.
You've just done a good sales job, so I think.
I know.
Yeah, I'll put my name forward.
Yeah.
Based upon his sales job.
Yeah, it's like once a year, and it was really nice to come in and like listen to the recommendations of why we should award different people different commendations. It was like a really lovely afternoon. Cool. So
So Matt, you want to join that committee?
sure, yeah, good.
And Christine, do you
Is this
want to be on
Miss-
governance?
Yeah, and I'll stay on HR, yeah,
Okay,
governance.
because I think
yeah.
I was switching off HR, but
Well, we'll see based on the
next
next,
meeting.
you're on it till it
Didn't
changes.
Marta mention HR at the last meeting? Because
Yeah.
that's her
Yeah.
background.
But I'll wait.
Yeah, I think,
So-
I don't want to.
No, but I do think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was what
We
we
kind
can
of had an
switch it
internal
out.
discussion,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
wait to make it kind of
official.
Yes.
I was thinking if the accommodations or EDI would be my preferences, but I'm happy to go. If you want to stay, you guys want to stay on that one, then I'd be happy to join EDI.
I mean, it's the other way. If you want to do commendations on
No.
EDI, do it. I'll
You
sell the
like it.
EDI in finance. That's.
One possibility is with RJ coming back on board, are we going to need an RJ liaison? It says currently on hold, but I assume RJ is kind of coming back on board now with
Well, it would
Melanie.
appear to be so. I'm not totally familiar, to be honest with you, what the role of that
Mhm.
position is without reading the terms of reference and stuff. I think by default, because it's identified on here and the program is getting back up and running, I would say that likely implies there should be somebody on that, but I don't know exactly what that would entail.
Can we update this though? Because my concern here, like we still have Deputy Chief Saini on here. If EDI is an advisory committee, that like we need to, again, maybe like do some work to decide how to make this document reflective of kind of reality and everything should have terms of reference or at least clarity on what the role of the board rep is if it's not a direct committee, but an advisory or technical or whatever it is. So I think I don't know if this, Eric, if we could possibly have an action item, because I don't think the board restorative justice liaison or board foundation liaison, if there's any terms of reference on those.
I know with the, or if I recall correctly with the RJ thing, it was Director Horswell, and then there wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't that there wasn't much happening, but then we were just starting to get regular reports from Deputy Chief Saini and that RJ liaison kind of, like that was right when I first started though, like that was.
Yeah, I think Shiloh can comment on that in a second, but I was gonna say, I think that was because there was almost like, and I'm trying to remember what they were called, an advisory board or something that oversaw restorative justice that we decided to basically dismantle or take that down.
Yeah.
So, or Shiloh, do you want to just, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I was calling it the right name, but
No, you're correct. It was the advisory board. It was because the previous RJ coordinator was not an employee of the Nelson Police Board. It was a contract position, so we had board oversight. But now that we have Mel as an employee, I'm not sure that you need to have, just by default, you already are her. You can provide oversight to her because you're her employer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, sorry, it started to come back to me after I was thinking about it because I couldn't remember what happened in the past. And then I remembered that was why we kind of got rid of the advisory board. So I'm thinking that is not required either.
I'll take on an action item to work with the president or vice president, depending on who's available, so that when we talk about our committees next month, we'll have a clear outline of the committees that we're talking about and if they are applicable terms of reference, if they're available. So I'll take that away for next time.
Thank you.
Christine, there are terms of references for all the committees that each
Yeah, no, I
committee,
get that,
each
yeah.
committee, they meet once a year and they go over their terms and then present back to the board, usually January, February.
Yeah, I'm just, Shiloh, I believe that. I'm just saying they're not in these minutes and some of these things might not be necessary, like what we just talked about. So it's just a cleanup of the documents, essentially, I would suggest. And so I can reach out to you and we can work with either Sue or Eric and just make sure that for the next session, we're all clear on what everyone's signing up for, if that makes sense. Perfect.
Did you jump on any committees officially?
No, she's interested in those we're not included, but
I will,
So,
And commendation.
if we're gonna do it, do you want to wait till
I mean-
next month? I'm happy to say I will be EDI and
I
accommodations.
think you'd
it
be
says
good there
2 or
on
more.
EDI while we get it figured out.
okay, did anyone else have any comments?
So Devin, are you stepping down from commendation? I wasn't clear.
I am, if there are two people who want to be on commendations, I am totally happy to, because you're right, my name is on like 3/4 of the list. So
Well, it
I'm
does
like not
say-
entirely sure how that happened. But
Name versus
I'm
seat.
like I really, like I am happy
No,
to share that one because it was actually really nice. Like it was like
Then I would
just a
love to-
really nice afternoon where I came in and we talked about good things and it was really lovely.
Okay.
And
I would
your
like
experience would be valuable too, right? You know what's going on, so keeping you around.
I don't know you're around. It's like really, it was. I've done it one time, and it was really nice, and it was low pressure, and I would happily share that because sometimes it's just nice to do nice things.
It does say 2 or more directors.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we can discuss that next month.
And we'll look at filling in your spot on the
Yeah,
governance.
yeah,
committee.
totally.
Okay. I think that's it.
And you're removed from the BCAPB, right?
From the BCAPB.
That's all adding to the list that
Because I was never.
Christine's working on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to work with others and just make sure that it's clear on our minutes. That's all.
Did any of the directors have reports that they want to bring up?
I'll just do a report just because of the fact that I was at UBCM, just so the police board is aware. So I don't know, was it last week or the week before? I've made 3 trips to Victoria this month. I don't know when I was there, but I was there for a week for UBCM. And so a couple of things that are pertinent to the police board and the work that we do here and that the police do is that I did have a meeting with Nikki, the Honorable Nikki Sharma, who is the Attorney General. And we brought up the issue around Crown Counsel and prosecutors and the fact that the Kootenay area in general has been flagged by the association, which is a bit political to throw the association into the group, but that there's a shortage of Crown Counsel prosecutors here. So, you know, my pitch then is, as the politician, is to see if we can't try to improve that situation in whatever capacity is available to us. Also emphasizing the fact of, I truly believe this, and I don't know, Chief, you might have a different idea, is that I think it's really important that they also live in our area so that they understand when they're hearing a report that they, like location. It's great for selling real estate. And it's also really important, I think, for crime. And I think that sometimes if you're the prosecutor who's on the after-hour shift that's reviewing the case and you phoned into Kelowna or Kamloops or wherever you guys end up phoning into, and you talk about, you know, this property crime that's occurred, and you say, well, it's this and they don't know where that is. So when there's property crime and it's across from the shelter, it's a little bit more impactful than, say there's property crime downtown and people envision, big commercial downtown area, nobody lives in the area. It's like, okay, yeah, there was property crime, store got broken into. When you can't visualize maybe where the crime has happened, and the frequency of it, and then the fact that it has then more impact often. So also, we'd like them to live in our community. That was two things. We also talked about what we could do, and I'm just having staff draft a letter to Sean Fraser, who's the member of Parliament, who is the Justice and Attorney General of Canada, because one of the first orders of business, supposedly for the federal government, when they start meeting again later this month, is to discuss the issue of bail reform. So writing from the city a letter supporting the initiatives, and the Attorney General has put in a briefing regarding the need for changes to the frequency of property crime and how they classify some things. I think that will go a long way also in the intimate partner violence crimes and charges that go forward. So that was the Attorney General. And then also met with, as I flip my book here, the some staff from the Public Safety and Solicitor General, because I did have a really good talk, as I think most of us did when we did the IM Health. So talking with the minister directly that day. So we had a meeting with staff, which is actually a great meeting to have at UBCM, because if you're meeting with a minister, you get 15 minutes and you get somebody in the room that has a stopwatch. When you get a meeting with staff, you get half an hour and nobody has a stopwatch. So if you happen to hit it just lucky, you might get 40 minutes. But again, we just touched on those things about the need for bail reform, but we talked more about the Arvoy program and that idea of having Arvoy for repeat property crime, not just for repeat violent crime, and trying to look at what other issues that can be around community safety and wellness. Brought up a brief discussion about police reform. One of the staffers at the table was kind of responsible for that portfolio in terms of the OPCC and length of time for decisions to be made, that if there could be changes in the Police Act or whatever, or wherever changes need to be made to speed up that process. We also discussed at that meeting. So I think two good meetings. I would say overall, I was on a panel on the very first day on disordered downtowns. Some of the panelists there were absolutely fantastic. It was lovely to hear from the ED of our place. His last name's Daly, and
Place, that's in Victoria.
yeah, and the problems and concerns that they raised there. He was very. I thought, what are the rest of us here for? He summarized it all perfectly. But for me, also was to listen to Dr. Vigo, who's EB's appointed psychiatrist, to look at involuntary care. And it was just great. The guy explained the science of the brain in like 3 easy lessons. It was just like, I was like, I hope everybody's listening to this, because this couldn't get any simpler, if you tried. And it was excellent. And the fact that clearly that when you have a significant enough brain injury, you are no longer capable, of looking after yourself, and that really it's kind of indecent of us not to be doing something for those people. And if involuntary care is the way to go, then. And the gentleman from our place, who basically does sort of like our old hub and also does housing, and really he's on Pandora, like he's right in the midst of the downtown east side of Victoria. He also believes that there is a need to have involuntary care in certain circumstances. So it was interesting to hear their positions. There was 4 of us mayors that also spoke on the panel about sort of local issues and where we see our communities. So I think that was a constant theme that kind of trickled through a lot of discussions with a lot of ministries. There was a lot of, coffee pot chatter, like when you're out getting your coffee, people were talking about that. It was a really strong theme this year at UBCM in terms of homelessness, addiction, mental health, and then looking and saying, okay, we've got harm reduction programs, and what are the next steps? And I've always felt that we've been missing the steps of doing better justice work. It's been lacking. It's not because police haven't done their job, but the system has failed in doing that arm of the 4 pillars approach. It's been very much lacking. So anyhow, that's my report. I'll answer any questions anybody might have, but that was the representation that we took to UBCM.
Thank you. Yeah, that Pandora is wild. We were there for Cap G. Like, we didn't even drive up Pandora. We were just driving up Blanchard to like a friend's place. And it's, I used to live in Victoria, and Pandora, so at Blanchard, going up Pandora, they've actually like construction fenced it off, and it's just tents all the way along the one side of the street. It's just tents. Again, we didn't go up Pandora, so I don't even think you can go up Pandora that way. I think it comes down into downtown, if I recall correctly. But it was like, I've never, like, yeah, downtown east side for sure. It was something else to see in Victoria like that. It was really disheartening. It was.
It's a struggle. There was a few, even Chris Johnson, like our general manager, was walking by in broad daylight, and there was people yelling at him in Victoria. I mean, like, it's like every town, it's nobody owns the prize here. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And some jurisdictions are much worse. And part of it is like they had these great services. And one of the things that Daly was talking about is that they used to have seniors and other people come for housing assistance and for food from their food bank, because Our Place is a large organization in Victoria, and those people have stopped coming because they do not feel safe accessing the services that they used to access there. So, it is what it is. So, and the only other thing, so if nobody has any questions, the only other thing I would like, because I just don't see it here and I was kind of looking around for it, is could we decide on what dates we want for next year's, or did I miss it? I missed a meeting. Did I miss it? Charlo, have we?
No, I usually do that
The
November
dates?
meeting, so I'll set it up next because I have to wait for Sonia to give me your other meetings.
Okay, so we approved our calendar last night. It was referred. We had it sort of approved in September. So I'll make sure that she has it to you, because as soon as we could have those dates, it would be great to integrate them into the city.
I'll send her an email right now and get her to send them to me tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. That's it. No. It's one thing I usually say.
Any other directors? I think we can move on to new business items, the victim service and restorative justice contract.
Well, I'm not sure because I don't know who put this. It looks like it was maybe something raised either by Acting Chief Laidman last time or something that was raised to him. So.
Oh, no, it was Sue.
Yeah, it was
It was
raised
Sue,
to him
yeah.
Okay.
from the last meeting.
Yeah, that's right. She said, to paraphrase, essentially, a restorative justice coordinator kind of needs to be impartial. And how can a victim services worker be an impartial facilitator of restorative justice program if they are like supporting a victim of crime? So that, does that sound about right? Like, that was kind of like just a paraphrase.
Well,
what she
and
said.
I think the flip side of that is also like the confidence or the public perception in programs when you have someone in a dual role. So it's not just the individual being able to wear two hats, but also, how that looks from an outside perspective too. So I think the conflict can arise both ways. The individual playing a dual role that can inherently be contradictory sometimes, and also a public perception of, that conflict. So how that was, I think, the underlying question.
Well, I guess I would say I do recall discussing this when we were talking at board meetings about whether combining those two roles. So we've had the discussion, person's hired. It's, too late in my mind to have the discussion now, but to answer it, I think I don't see it as a conflict. I mean, there's potential conflict to arise in any position or any role, and you address it one-on-one or one-off sort of situation. The restorative justice manager doesn't facilitate the actual. We're looking at them potentially some more Indigenous type healing circles, but whatever process they go with, it's a separate facilitator doing it. Like Melanie in that role is not facilitating the actual restorative justice piece as it occurs. So they're already sort of one step removed. There was some discussion that with the victim service person being the coordinator of all those things, they had a little bit more intimate knowledge of what was happening, what the trends were, or what people were being involved in, things that were maybe appropriate to refer to restorative justice. And I still think the victim's wishes should take precedent. So the victim services person is in a perfect position to discuss that with the victim of the crime, and whether or not restorative justice is the appropriate avenue. And then because she's also the restorative justice manager, she can coordinate setting up somebody else to facilitate the restorative justice. So I think there's sort of a built-in buffer already. But at any time, and I think some of the, I see a bit of a solution, I guess, if there's a conflict identified, that there's a way that it can be dealt with and addressed. And again, to me, it's the victim and the offender that are the two people that could be adversely affected if there's a conflict. And I think that their needs need to be met first. So that's who would be addressed. And if they didn't see a conflict or didn't feel that whatever was identified as a potential conflict, then I think we move forward. If there's the identified conflict, then we decide, how do we remedy it? And how can we still move the restorative justice process forward while dealing with the conflict?
Yeah, I mean, we may have discussed it previously as a board, like I acknowledge that. However, Sue would not have been part of that discussion. And I think maybe it was a blind spot, like the fact that she saw that immediately and raised it, I think is something that we do need to consider. And so for me, it's not about changing the roles per se, but actually documenting that, there's an acknowledgement that conflicts can arise, actual or perceived, and this is how they're going to be dealt with. And to me, it's not just the victim and the offender. I think the person in that role also has to, like any of us would have to, if you yourself feel like there's a conflict, you have to declare it, right? For some reason, maybe they feel they can't be impartial or actually manage, whatever the situation is because of some reason. So I think as long as we address it in some document, basically, and the person in this role understands that, and that, there's some process, I guess, in terms of saying this to people in the right situation. I think it's more about that side of it as opposed to, like, I don't think anyone was saying we don't want this person in those roles. It's just, how do we address this? And like I said, the fact that someone came into a meeting and just immediately came up with that, to me, is an indicator that other people might think the same thing. So
Yeah, and I would like to say when we first started discussing combining the two roles, we consciously recognized that, thought of that, and said, like, is it appropriate for the two roles to be combined? So I get what you're saying, and but I see that in every role in this building. Like, there's potential conflict, dealing with a family member or somebody you do business with outside of your policing job or something. Like, it's the onus is on the person dealing with somebody to, recognize if they have a conflict or a potential perceived conflict and either identify that to me or whoever the appropriate oversight person is, and then decide, whether whether that conflict creates an issue and we need to figure out how we're going to resolve it, or what alternatives can we move forward with, or whether or not the fact of just acknowledging that there's potentially a perceived conflict here and we keep that in consideration but move forward with that person dealing with whatever the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just about documenting something. Like a police officer might have a different training and obligations around things than this role that we combined here to, like, it's just to me about documenting what the situation is, and how we would address it. Like, so yeah, for this very, I think, unique and specific situation, because it's unique. So yeah, and I get what you're saying, Chief. I mean, it's something that, even as board members, we declare conflicts. If you're a police officer, I'm sure you're put in situations of conflict, but every situation would be a little bit different in terms of what the expectation is in terms of how you go about that. So I think it's like this, I haven't read it in detail, but like some idea about, yeah, this is acknowledged because it's a combined role and this is the process. I don't know what other people think about that, but.
And my comment would be is if it's the same model that you guys are using in the past, the restorative justice coordinator, Melanie, would never actually be involved in a restorative justice circle. She would never actually be there doing the back and forth. And it's always a volunteer. There used to be a huge group of volunteers that were managed by, I can't remember who Sophie's manager was, but there's two of them and they were both gone.
Yeah,
But it used to be-
Central,
Yeah.
kind of the last previous manager.
And they were always, so the person that we're talking about here would never actually be sitting down there with the offended party and the offending party and the affected party, and would never actually be doing that role, which is where the conflict of interest, if you're victim service units, would be, because there'd be perception that they'd be biased towards the well-being of the victim. And so I think that one of the things to know is that we're looking at a managerial role with Melanie rather than an actual.
Yeah, and I think that generally addresses, I mean, I can't say she would never be involved in facilitating, but that's not really her role, and I don't think she has or probably will even get she'd probably get the training to be a facilitator so she knows what she's managing, but it's not her main function. But to your point, I mean, conflicts could come up in a number of other areas too. I mean, you just can't predict what could happen, but I guess it's, there is a bit of a process identified, and as long as we make sure that we, make sure Melanie is aware of that, so that, in her mind, she is thinking that, maybe there's a conflict here. And I think the other ESU workers or volunteers should also all be made aware of this, because any one of them could have a conflict in any given situation. So just so they're aware, if you think there might be a conflict, it's better to bring it forward at the beginning and identify it, be transparent about it, and then we can have a discussion as to whether or not it makes sense to assign that to somebody else, or again, whatever the appropriate remedy is at that time after it's looked at. But,
Yeah. And I'd suggest maybe a follow-up with Sue, because she raised this specifically. So it'd be good to hear back from her directly once you have something. But
sure.
when I'm reading this, it also sounds like maybe she was concerned that because it sounds like this person would be giving direct victim services or not. Because I guess there might be a bias to try and influence someone towards restorative justice if you're being skeptical, right? A skeptical person. But I think Sue would be like, whatever you come up with, I think bringing it back to the board when Sue's here might be my suggestion, just because it was her original concern.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that, but I think you're right. It'd be better just to discuss with Sue and then have a further discussion with the entire board if it's needed. But because maybe there is something else that she's seen that I'm not seeing, but.
And it's hard to paraphrase when you just hear someone speaking at a meeting, so. So is this procedure something that's before us then, or something that we're just going to table for now and allow you to
I
do some
suggest we
follow-up?
just table it until I talk to Sue, because I don't,
Thank
if
you.
there's something more to it, then it probably needs to be
Yeah, thank you.
adjusted or added to.
there anything else?
Oh, I just had one thing I forgot, since it seems like it was so long ago, but I wanted to talk about the success of the Nelson Police Memorial Run. We were hoping for 50 participants. We had 169. We raised $5,000 for scholarships. And we also are getting a donation from an unnamed business, will be made public next week, for $2,500 to go into the, I can't, what do we call the fund? The Osprey
Osprey
Fund.
Fund.
So I think we'll have close to $4,000 in the Osprey Fund as well. So to keep generating more. So, and we're hoping to add a 10-kilometer and a 1-kilometer run next year. So kids 1K and a 10K run.
Run, walk.
Yes,
It's great. Push the stroller.
but super successful. We were very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, the photos were great.
Yeah.
The big crowd through the starting line and stuff was great. Yeah.
And thank you again for organizing, you, Shiloh, whoever else was involved. But yeah,
Thank
thank you. That was,
That's great.
it's great to have that kind of community positive experience in relation to the police and just have the visibility like that. Thank you very much.
Apologies that nobody from the city was there because of course we were all on the airplane flying to
Yeah.
Vancouver for UBCM. So I thought, okay, I can run down there. I went, no, I can't. I can't segue through that and still get to the airport and keep my sensibilities. So hopefully next year it won't be on the day that we're all leaving to. Next year it'll just be crazy because it's an election year. So everybody will be showing up so that they can campaign while they run, leafleting as they run.
I just saw Officer Edwards walk by.
Oh.
Yeah, I just saw Constable Edwards walk by.
Wow. Our previous, our first CSO,
Constable Edwards, yeah.
our first CSO.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Edwards.
yeah. Was she not first? Oh, yeah, it was her and,
No, not technically.
no, it was,
Was it
the
Heidi?
Heidi and,
Was it Heidi from Idaho?
and, oh, her sister works downstairs.
Oh, right.
Jasmine.
Jasmine, that's right.
I'd like to move that the meeting be ended.
Can I get a secondary? All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Because I was just starting, we're still in the open meeting. So don't say anything.